just like in 4th grade math or in algebra class. And if we want to add two terms together, they have to have a common denominator. So 1 over 1 plus cosine plus 1 over 1 minus cosine, we're going to have to get a common denominator. If your two denominators are different, then you multiply them together to get the common denominator. Just like back in elementary school, if you have a half plus a third and you want to find the common denominator, it's 2 times 3, which is equal to 6. And so that's what we're going to do. Our common denominator is going to be 1 plus cosine times 1 minus cosine. So, when I go back to my first term, 1 plus cosine, I now have the denominator 1 minus cosine multiplied times that. So that means I had to multiply both the numerator and the denominator times 1 minus cosine. So I multiplied the numerator times 1 minus cosine and the denominator times 1 minus cosine. And 1 times 1 minus cosine is just 1 minus cosine. Similarly, this term got multiplied by 1 plus cosine. So whatever I multiply by in the denominator, I also have to multiply by in the numerator. And 1 times 1 plus cosine is 1 plus cosine. Now that we have a common denominator, we can combine our numerators. So we have 1 minus the cosine of theta plus 1 plus the cosine of theta all over 1 plus cosine of theta times 1 minus cosine of theta. And then combining like terms, we'll see that our negative cosine and our positive cosine add to equal 0. And so we end up with our numerator, 1 plus 1 is 2, over 1 plus cosine of theta times 1 minus cosine of theta. And so that is an answer, but it's not as simplified as it could be. If we go ahead and multiply this denominator together, we'll have 2 over, notice this is a difference of squares, 1 plus the cosine of theta times 1 minus the cosine of theta would end up to be 1 minus cosine squared. And 1 minus cosine squared, if you'll think back to your Pythagorean identity, sine squared plus cosine squared is equal to 1. So a 1 minus a cosine squared is a sine squared. So we're going to take this and substitute it for 1 minus cosine squared. And so this would be an answer to the problem. It's simplified. Or we could also remember that a sine squared, as reciprocal of that, is a cosecant squared. So this is the same thing as 2 over 1 over the cosecant squared of x, which is equal to 2 cosecant squared. So this would be an acceptable answer, or this would be an acceptable answer to this problem.